Before his death, Ip Man finally admitted why he had stopped teaching Bruce Lee, a truth far more complex than Hollywood ever showed. For years, the world celebrated the legendary bond between these martial arts icons with films showing a young Bruce Lee training in a secret temple under the tutelage of an enlightened master. Yet the reality involved deep cultural tensions, fierce rivalries, and the harsh conditions of Hong Kong in the 50s, which ultimately drove a wedge between them. In this video, we debunk the legends to reveal how ancient prejudices, jealous comrades, and the pressure to preserve Wing Chun drove Ip Man to make this difficult decision. Join us as we uncover the little-known story behind this defining moment. And ask yourself, what would have happened if Bruce had completed his traditional training? How did Bruce Lee get into Ip Man's classes? Bruce Lee first met Ip Man in the early 1950s, when he was about 15 years old. At the time, Bruce was not yet the disciplined martial artist the world would come to know. He was simply a teenager immersed in the tumultuous street life of Hong Kong, where gang fights and urban violence were part of his daily routine. Leading a gang nicknamed the Eight Tigers of Junction Street, Bruce had forged a reputation as a skilled street fighter, although his techniques were still crude and unrefined. This harsh environment prompted him to seek a way to improve his fighting skills, and this quest led him to Kung Fu. His first approach to Kung Fu was not through formal training, but rather by watching others fight and experimenting with techniques on his own. One of his closest friends, William Chung, was already learning Wing Chun from the famous Grandmaster Ip Man. Recognizing Bruce's fighting spirit and natural talent, Chung offered to introduce him to his teacher. This meeting was to change Bruce Lee's life. There was, however, an initial complication. Bruce's mother had European roots, and some people saw him as a foreigner. In the traditional Chinese martial arts world of the time, there was a long-standing rule against teaching non-Chinese students. Several of Ip Man's senior students opposed Bruce's admission to the school. William Shung, convinced of Bruce's potential, vouched for him. Thanks to this intervention, Bruce was finally accepted into Ip Man's Wing Chun school. However, Bruce's training did not begin as he had imagined. Rather than immediately learning complex movements or fighting techniques, he was instructed to practice a single posture for several days. This was particularly frustrating for Bruce, who had hoped to quickly acquire techniques applicable to street fights. He complained to his father about this seemingly pointless exercise, but nothing changed. Despite his frustration, he continued to show up for class and tirelessly repeat this posture. The Ip Man approach was deliberate. His philosophy emphasized the importance of building a solid foundation before moving on to more elaborate techniques. By forcing Bruce to concentrate solely on perfecting this posture, Ip Man was instilling in him the precision, balance, and structure that would become essential to his future martial arts mastery. At the time, Bruce found this training tedious, but in retrospect it laid the foundations for his later innovations. Ip Man himself rarely taught all his students directly. He reserved personal instruction for those he deemed particularly promising or dedicated. In Bruce's case, much of the daily instruction was provided by Wang Chunlung, one of Ip Man's most trusted senior students. Wang was renowned for his pragmatic approach to Wing Chun, shaped by his own experiences in real combat. Under his guidance, Bruce's skills improved rapidly. Wang's emphasis on efficiency and adaptability in real combat echoed Bruce's experience in street fights. As he progressed, Ip Man began to take a personal interest in his development. The Grandmaster recognized Bruce's talent and enthusiasm for learning. Beyond the physical techniques, Ip Man introduced him to the profound philosophy of Kung Fu, the importance of fluidity, adaptability, and understanding one's opponent. This philosophical basis would later influence many of Bruce's famous ideas, including his famous maxim, "Be like water." Bruce's period of training under Ip Man and Wang Shun Liang ran parallel to his studies at St. Francis Xavier's College, where he was mentored by brother Edward Muss, who also coached the school's boxing team. This period was crucial in shaping his overall vision of fighting. While Wing Chun offered him a structured martial arts system, his boxing experiences introduced him to Western-style punching techniques and movements. This mix of influences sowed the seeds for Bruce's subsequent development of his own martial philosophy, Jeet Kune Do. The years spent under Ip Man's tutelage were transformative. Bruce arrived at the school as a raw, self-taught street fighter whose techniques were based on instinct and aggression. Thanks to Ip Man's patient, structured training, this aggression was refined into control, precision, and efficiency. This transformation was as much physical as mental. Bruce began to perceive combat not just as a physical conflict, but as a dynamic interaction requiring both technique and adaptability. Why did Ip Man stop teaching Bruce Lee? The environment at Ip Man's school was not only demanding because of the training methods, but also because of the internal conflicts between students. Bruce's natural ability allowed him to quickly surpass many of his peers, intensifying their resentment. Jealousy ran deep, and his mixed origins fanned the flames of discontent even further. Many traditionalists within the school felt that Chinese martial arts should be reserved exclusively for people of pure Chinese descent. This prejudice offered a convenient justification to his detractors, and despite Ip Man's personal acceptance of Bruce's talent, the growing opposition within the school could not be ignored. As Bruce's skills improved under the guidance of Ip Man and his senior student Wang Shun Liang, external pressure on the Grandmaster increased. In Hong Kong's conservative martial arts community, traditions were fiercely defended. The idea of teaching Chinese martial arts to a person of mixed origins was controversial. Moreover, Bruce's reputation as a street fighter, honed in Hong Kong's violent back alleys and reinforced by his success in unofficial fights, exacerbated the situation. His rebellious nature and rapid ascent in the martial arts made him a lightning rod for criticism. His comrades and established practitioners all saw him as a threat to the entrenched customs and hierarchies of Wing Chun. In the late 1950s, several factors combined to create an untenable situation for Ip Man. His own health was deteriorating, years of opium consumption had taken their toll, and he was suffering from throat cancer. Teaching was becoming increasingly difficult for the aging Grandmaster who had spent decades perfecting the art of Wing Chun. At the same time, pressure from the traditional martial arts community was mounting. Critics argued that Ip Man was compromising the integrity of his teachings by associating himself with a student who did not meet the community's standards. As one senior member of the school was quoted as saying, "Teaching Bruce is like opening the door to everything that isn't meant for our art." Although Ip Man never publicly endorsed such comments, the sentiment was pervasive. Faced with these growing challenges, Ip Man made a difficult decision. Rather than exclude Bruce altogether, a move that could have further damaged his reputation, Ip Man chose to distance himself by ceasing to offer him direct instruction. Instead, he arranged for Bruce's training to continue exclusively under the direction of Wang Chun Liang. This decision made Bruce an outcast within the main school. He was confined to a separate training environment. This compromise enabled Ip Man to protect both his personal heritage and the sacredness of his martial tradition. In so doing, he ensured that the controversies surrounding Bruce's presence did not compromise the overall reputation of his Wing Chun lineage. For decades, the real reasons why Ip Man stopped teaching Bruce remained the subject of speculation. Many assumed that Bruce's arrogance and rebellious behavior were the main causes. However, the full story was far more complex and, in many ways, tragic. Shortly before his death in 1972, Ip Man revealed the truth. Growing pressure from the traditional martial arts community, combined with my declining health, left me no choice but to withdraw from Bruce's direct training. These words clarified that it wasn't Bruce's behavior alone that had motivated this decision, but a combination of external pressures and personal limitations. Deep-rooted prejudice against Bruce's mixed origins also played a role, as many conservative students felt that Chinese martial arts should not be shared with people of non-Chinese origin. After this period, Bruce's life took another dramatic turn. In 1959, following a series of violent incidents, including a particularly serious altercation involving the son of a powerful triad member, his parents decided that his safety in Hong Kong could no longer be guaranteed. They sent him to the U.S., where they would start from scratch in Seattle. Arriving with little money, just $100 and a few contacts, Bruce was forced to reinvent himself. In the U.S., he began by holding down odd jobs and studying philosophy at the University of Washington. At the same time, he forged a reputation as a formidable fighter, taking part in boxing matches and clandestine martial arts competitions. The break with Ip Man's formal training didn't end Bruce's commitment to the martial arts. It merely redirected his trajectory. In Seattle, Bruce eventually opened his own school, the John Fan Kung Fu Institute. This institution broke with tradition in many ways. Unlike the exclusive, racially homogeneous martial arts schools of Hong Kong, Bruce's school welcomed students from all backgrounds. His inclusive approach was seen as a direct challenge to the established order and further fueled controversy surrounding his methods. In redefining his art as Jeet Kune Do, or the way of the intercepting point, Bruce sought to eliminate what he saw as superfluous traditions to create a system based solely on efficiency and practicality in real combat. The deep man's distancing himself from Bruce was not intended to punish him, but to protect the reputation of his martial arts school. The relentless pressure from traditionalists, combined with his deteriorating health, made it impossible for him to continue providing direct instruction without risking diluting his art. Ip Man, the Wing Chun master who shaped Bruce Lee's legacy. So, who really is Ip Man to have exerted such a profound influence on Bruce Lee? Born in 1893 in Foshan, Guangdong, Ip Man, originally IP Kai Man, grew up in a wealthy family that valued education and traditional Chinese culture. The third of 4 siblings, he was introduced to the discipline of martial arts from an early age. He began studying Wing Chun under Chan Hua Chun, a respected master of the art. Some sources claim that Ip Man began his training at the age of 9, while others suggest that he started at 13. Whatever the case, his determination to master Wing Chun was evident from the start. Chan Hua Chun, then aged 57, took IP on as his 16th pupil. However, his teaching was interrupted after only 3 years due to a mild stroke in 1909, forcing him to retire. During his formative years, Ip Man absorbed much of his training from Chan's second most experienced pupil, Ng Chung Sok, laying the essential foundations for his future expertise. In his 20s, Ip Man had already reached a level of competence that enabled him to teach others, although he had not yet set up an official school. He then worked as a police officer in Foshan for the nationalist government, a position that assured him both a steady income and the opportunity to apply his martial skills to maintaining law and order. His reputation as a skilled and disciplined practitioner grew steadily, even as his career as a martial artist was just beginning to take shape. At the age of 16, with the help of his cousin Leung Fut-ting, Ip Man moved to Hong Kong. There, he quickly enrolled at the Stevens College, a school for wealthy families and expatriates. This experience broadened his horizons and exposed him to new ideas, far beyond his native facade. Shortly after his arrival, a classmate named Lai informed him of an exhibition challenge organized by a friend of Lai's father. The challenge came from Leong Bic, son of Leong Chan, who had been Chan Hua Shun's teacher. Ip Man enthusiastically accepted the duel. However, Leong Bic's speed and skill quickly outdid him. After 2 fights in which Ip was defeated, he felt embarrassed and discouraged, and initially left without comment. A week later, Lai explained that Leong Bic had actually praised IP Man's technique and emphasized his family connection with Leong Chan. This feedback motivated Ip Man, who began training under Leong Bic until the latter's death in 1911. These years of rigorous training were essential in honing his skills and deepening his understanding of Wing Chun. In 1916, at the age of 24, Ip Man returned to Foshan and resumed his career as a police officer. During this period, he began teaching Wing Chun to friends, subordinates, and family members. Although he never established an official martial arts school in Foshan, his classes enjoyed an excellent reputation. These early students, including Lok Yu, Cho Kuangyue, Kwok Fu, Lun Ka, Chan Chi Soon, and Lui Ying, subsequently contributed to the spread of Wing Chun in Foshan and throughout the Guangdong region. Some of them even emigrated to Hong Kong, although not all embarked on teaching careers. Ip Man married Xiong Wing Sing, and together they had several children, including IP Chun and IP Ching. However, his personal life was not without difficulties. The tumultuous political climate of early 20th century China began to affect him. During the Sino-Japanese War, Ip Man sided with the Kuomintang. Rumors circulate that he joined the Central Bureau of Investigation and Statistics in Guizhou in 1938, then returned to Foshan as an undercover intelligence agent, although the details remain controversial. What is certain is that he spent some time with his pupil, Kwok Fu, during the conflict, before returning to Foshan when hostilities ended. After the war, Ip Man served for several years as captain of the Foshan police patrols, and in 1949 he even trained his second son, Ip Ching, demonstrating his commitment to passing on Wing Chun. However, with the victory of the Chinese Communist Party in the Civil War at the end of 1949, the political situation changed radically. Because of his links with the Kuomintang, Ip Man, his wife and their eldest daughter left Foshan for Hong Kong via Macau in 1950. This was a major turning point in his life. In Hong Kong, Ip Man's experience was radically different from the relative stability he had known in Foshan. At the age of 56, he had trouble finding work. His experience as a police officer didn't transfer easily to this new environment. With the help of friends, he got a job in a restaurant and made connections through the Hong Kong Restaurant Workers Association. During this period, Ip Man developed an addiction to opium, which exacerbated his financial difficulties. In order to support both his addiction and his family, he began teaching Wing Chun more openly in the early 1950s. His first students were mainly destitute members of the Restaurant Workers Association and troubled young men from the streets, people he hoped would turn away from gang violence. Although many stayed only briefly, some eventually acquired enough skills to open their own schools, helping to spread Wing Chun in Hong Kong. In the mid-1950s, Ip Man's personal life was further complicated when he began an extramarital affair with a woman known simply as Shanghai Pa. This relationship gave birth to a son, Ip Shu Hua. In 1960, his wife Sheng died of cancer, and his sons subsequently joined him in Hong Kong. As the 1960s progressed, Ip Man's reputation improved, attracting wealthier and better educated students. In 1967, he and several of his students set up the Wing Chun Athletic Association to help alleviate his financial difficulties, a move that former student Duncan Leung later summed up by saying Ip was using tuition money to support his opium addiction. Ip Man's influence extended far beyond his personal difficulties. His notable students included Xu Xiongtin, Lok Yu, Wang Shun Liang, and Bruce Lee. The latter in particular credited Ip Man with teaching the art of detachment and instilling a profound understanding of Kung Fu. Ip Man's famous Maxime de Bruce, like water, reflects the fundamental principles of simplicity, directness, and adaptability that he learned from Ip Man. Ip Man died on December 2, 1972 at his home at 149 Tang Choi Street in Hong Kong, succumbing to laryngeal cancer just 7 months before Bruce Lee. He was buried at Wahap Shek in Hong Kong. Today, the Ip Man Museum, located on the grounds of the ancestral Fo Shan Temple, preserves many artifacts from his life, and his legacy continues to inspire martial artists the world over. Ip Man's journey, from his beginnings in Fo Shan, through his later struggles and ultimate success in Hong Kong, is a testament to the enduring power of disciplined martial training and the profound influence a dedicated teacher can have on future generations. Before his death, Ip Man finally revealed why he had stopped teaching Bruce Lee. In a moving final meeting in Hong Kong, a weakened Ip Man, flashing a slight smile, answered Bruce's sincere question. "Do you still consider me your student?" This moment summed up the deep bond between master and pupil, a bond shaped by tradition, personal hardship, and the need to preserve the integrity of Wing Chun. Although his decision to distance himself was not a rejection, but a difficult choice dictated by immense pressure and health problems, it begs the question, what if Bruce had completed his traditional training? Would he have revolutionized the martial arts in the same way? Share your thoughts below and join us as we continue to explore the legends behind these iconic figures.